This is a thrill for me. As you know, I've had celebrities on this podcast, studio executives, the greatest scientists, and now I'm most proud of having the greatest experts in my life, Roger and Dolly Buettner. Other people worship the Dalai Lama. I have a Dolly Buettner, which I love. So I've asked you to come on. As you know, I spent 25 years studying longevity. And I have largely done it by going out and finding people who've actually achieved the outcome we want, the aging success. And in blue zones, there are people who've made it to 100, and they've done so largely without disease. Their journey has been joyous. They have good family. So you guys in my book are already blue zones all-stars. And I've learned so much from you. I think much of my healthy longevity is because of you. Much of my happiness is because of you. I've decided to do the world a favor and ask you to share some of your wisdom with them. And so welcome.
Well, thank you. Nice words.
Let's start with relationships, because one of the things I've admired about you two, you've been married 66 years, which is 2/3 of a century. That is in the top 2% of the longest marriages in history. You've done so. I mean, I've had a front seat to it. There's been no great drama. There's been no great misbehavior. And what I mostly see is joy. You two still hold hands, and you're very different people, but you still love each other. And I'm just wondering what lessons you might be able to give to newlyweds today, or people thinking about making a partnership commitment. What advice would you give them if they want to be together 66 years later and still love each other?
I live in a family, of 5 males, so I might as well get the ladies' point of view out there first. What makes us happy after 66 years, or what's the trigger? Endurance. I mean, it endures. It's not been perfect all the time, but it's been in the top 95%. Somebody asked me once, I think it's a perfect story. We were with a travel group, and we went for a long walk. And one of the guys, I was walking with him, and he said, "Raj never waits for you, does he? He's always ahead of you or whatever." And I looked at him, I said, "I really don't let that offend me, because for the one thing he might not be perfect at, he's perfect in the other 9 out of 10.
So do you think you have an ability to see Roger's good traits better than you are able to see his negative traits? Or do you just think he's objectively has 10 good traits for every negative one?
I think that's it. I think nobody's perfect, but they couldn't be more perfect in my eyes than Roger.
So you picked the right
I did.
man in the first place.
Yeah.
How about you, Dad? What's your secret to?
Well, I think you have to let the other person have a life of their own. And it's not good that you allow them to go to work or do those kinds of things, but make sure that they have friends and they do things with friends, and you don't feel bad when they're gone doing something on their own.
Have either one of you tried to change the other person? Did you marry a different person than you ended up with?
I tried to teach them to dance.
How did that work?
I didn't get an A in that class. But I tried. And that's only one point that's taken off your 100 good ones. So,
I've been around you. I haven't seen a lot of serious arguments, but when there is a serious disagreement, how do you resolve it?
Well, we make sure that we kiss each other before we go to sleep at night.
Every night?
Every night, yeah. I think that's a way of...
So even when you're mad?
Yeah, when you're mad.
Sometimes we had to go kiss the one that went to bed first.
But we got it done.
We did.
So there's never not been any serious arguments that have endured.
No.
And how do you get to the point where you're with somebody where there is, because you've had 4 children. I know, Dad, when we were young, you were a school teacher and you weren't making a lot of money. We were living in a house that I happen to know, six of us, 990 square feet. So a tiny little house. You couldn't jet off on vacation. You didn't have a fancy car. We had one car for the family.
Two-door.
A two-door. Reason I'm so flexible is crawling in the back seat for 25 years. How do you avoid even letting those pressures, which would cause so much stress for most people? How do you keep them from overtaking your life, but also interfering in your relationship?
Why would you let it interfere?
I'm stuck because I don't ever remember being in that situation. I came from being on a farm, and we lived pretty much within, 10 miles of that farm. And so, you didn't try to change people or.
You guys don't realize it, but your achievement of 66 happy years of marriage, you're still together now. You're still, by the way, I actually saw with my own eyes how a good marriage can add years to your life. You're probably not going to remember this, Mom, but it was during COVID. You tripped in the kitchen and you started to fall, and your head was going right for the corner of the counter. And if that would have hit, I'm not sure if you would have pulled out of it. Dad happened to be there, turned it around, and rather heroically caught you. And that was a very tangible example of the way marriage, staying together for 66 years, into your 80s, and in your case, Dad, 90s, are helping each other to survive. So maybe you have more examples of how your marriage has helped you reach, to your 9th and 10th decade, and you're so sharp and you're so vital and you're fun to be with. And what would you advise for a 30-year-old contemplating marriage? What would be your advice if they wanted to still be together 66 years later?
I think a longer courtship before we're moving in together.
I like that.
Because
How long?
I think it ought to be at least a couple of years, so you really get to know each other and you get a feel for each other, and you've had a lot of opportunity to interact over those years. And I think you get a much better feel of whether that relationship is the real one or not.
That's a great piece of insight.
I remember going back to St. Thomas with you boys. And
just for context, when I was 18, after you had raised 4 boys, you went back to school and got your college degree 18 years after I was born. Do you think that education is now contributing to your longevity? Has it indeed helped you with living longer, do you think?
no, I think more on longevity is the evenness in our relationship. I think the fact that we are together and we honor one another by accepting one another as they are.
That's an important point. So if you like that clip, there's a lot more where that came from. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you won't miss our new videos as they come out each week.